Hi, everybody.
Hello, Andrew. Anna, I can't hear you.
I try now.
Oh, yeah, now it's worked. Perfect.
Had to push the button. Do apologise.
No, that's okay. It's been a while since I've used Zoom as well, so hopefully it goes well. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
Good. Thank you so much for wanting to be a part of our rebellion. It's really exciting to have alumni come in. We've never done something like this before, so it's really, really cool. Before we get into the interview sort of stuff, just want to see how you're doing this morning, how everything's going.
Sorry, I'm taking you for a walk.
Off a horrendous cold, so if I start coughing,
I'll
shut my mic down for a minute.
That's okay.
Oh, the ultimate pro there.
I think I'm coming down with something as well, so obviously a lot's going around. Great.
Yes, well, that's student life, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think if we just get you guys to introduce yourself, you say what you studied here at Essex, and then also the year you graduated. Andrew, I don't know if you wanted to start.
I will happily start. Yeah, I did an economics degree at Essex, graduated in 1981. My involvement with what was then URE, University Radio Essex, started 44 years and a bit ago, in April 1979. A friend was on the station at the time doing a show, and I don't remember how, but I got invited to do an audition, which at the time they called a driving test. So I did that audition. I did that audition 27th of April 1979. I must have been fantastic because I got a show the next day. Although it could also be something to do with the fact that they were clearly short on people. So I think it's probably a balancing act between needing to fill content and my abilities as a DJ. That was it. So that was my first year I started broadcasting. Didn't do a great deal, although within a few days of joining, I was asked to help with the election coverage for the 3rd of May 1979 election, which of course was when Mrs. Thatcher got elected, which didn't go down very well with the profile of the campus at the time, which was fairly left-wing leading, so that wasn't going down particularly well. So that was my first year. Second year, back then, a lot of students had to live off campus in the second year, so I was about a half an hour walk away, although I used to ride a bike into to campus. I did with my colleague, a chap called Pete Pickett. We did a show on Saturday evenings, which kind of sort of was quite convenient because it meant that we could walk in, have a couple of drinks in the Union Bar whilst doing our radio show, and then walk home again. Third year, I was lucky enough to get back on campus, which meant I could do a little bit more in terms of shows. I did Thursday morning program, which used to be called Good Morning Campus, that sort of 8 till 10, which was quite useful because that back in the day, that's when the music press used to publish on a Thursday. And my colleague, Mr. Pickett, used to bring in the New Musical Express and the Melody Maker, so I could sort of base my program around the charts. Also in that third year, I was doing sports coverage. I'd come in on a Saturday afternoon and help with the sports coverage. That was a bit selfish because I live in Watford. I support Watford. At the time, Watford were a third division team, and it was very difficult to get any sort of results coverage on the local radio stations. And of course, that was back in the day, way before the internet, where you could get results almost immediately. At the time, URE took its news feed direct from London Broadcasting Corporation, LBC, who still exist. And of course, they did cover the London area, so I was able to sit there and listen to all the local results coming in. And apart from that, we used to do a Sunday afternoon show, which it ran alongside the main chart program at the time, which was Tony Blackburn was the DJ for that on Radio 1. So we rather interesting called that the Alternative Blackburn Show, and that was it. That's a very brief run through my time on University Radio Essex.
That's amazing that you were a part of the student media. Obviously I joined Rebel last year, so this is my second year being a part of student media. So it's just really cool to hear about that. Essex radio has just been going on for a really long time. So thank you for that. It's really cool. What about you, Anna? What did you study, and what year did you graduate?
I studied European Studies and French. I started in 91, graduated 95. I have to ask Andrew, when you had the studio, Andrew, was it down in the bottom corner of the SU corridor?
No, URE, when I was there, we were on the first floor in the student union corridor, quite near where what used to be Lloyd's Bank was. I don't know whether the format's changed, but there was a little sub-branch of Lloyd's there. Obviously, all the main student union officers were up on that particular floor. And URE had a suite. There's a couple of studios and sort of a main office where the transmitter was. Yeah,
I was just curious because we moved in 1991. The studio was still there in that back corner, and then but it was held together with sellotape and string, pretty much. And then we got a grant, and they managed to move us further up the corridor. So we had a brand spanking new studio for my second year, which was fantastic. All whistles and bells, and you didn't have to hold the cart machines in with a pencil to make them work. I remember getting my news feed from CFAX and my cinema listings from CFAX, and you'd be trying to read them on air, and then the page would change as you're halfway through reading it. So I learned very quickly that you had to come in early, write down the information, so then you could read it from a piece of paper rather than from CFAX. And Rebecca's probably looking at me now going, what the hell is CFAX?
Yeah, I didn't want to ask, but I have no idea what that is.
It was information on a TV screen, but pre-internet.
Okay.
So you had the news, you had the weather, you had cinema listings. You could buy a holiday off CFAX if you wrote down the information and then rang up a phone number to speak to someone. It was really clunky, but it was the only way that we could get additional content to the program, really, in terms of facts and information. And I mean, Andrew and I would have been vinyl, and I imagine now Rebel is completely digital.
Yes.
So it's a different kind of, what am I going to play? But when you've got a vinyl record on and you've got 3 minutes and you can't really find what you want to play next, and you're fanning all these records desperately trying to find something, and you know it's running out, it put pressure on you in a different way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
My first show was a Friday night, 8:30 to 9:30. So I'm pretty much sure my audience was me and nobody else. Nobody else was in the bar. Second year, I was a breakfast show presenter. And then I also did like the record reviews. Is Andy's record still going in Colchester?
I don't think so. I feel like I would know.
Yeah, they used to let us have like the top 10 every week or a couple of albums every week. And then we got sent lots and lots of dross from all these really obscure record companies that you'd have to sift through and try and find what might be any good. So that was like a panel program. You'd play a few songs and let everybody sort of have an opinion on it. Most of it was absolutely awful.
I sound like the Monty Python sketch now. You were lucky. At the time, I think there was some issue with copyright, and there was a record library, but it was probably about 6 or 7 years old and not being added to. So the content and everything that I did was, people I knew's record, my own record. So I was, it was a question of you'd have to decide pretty much what your show was going to be in advance, because that was the only way you were going to have any sort of decent content.
Yeah. I used to take quite a lot of cassette tapes, and again, Rebecca's going, cassette tape, what's that?
I do actually know what that is this time.
But I've been lining those up so that they fire at the right part of the song, the same as lining up a vinyl record. You have to sort of find the beginning of the song, and then you had to take it back like a quarter of an inch. And it's a different kind of skill set almost in terms of planning your music and deciding what you were going to play. The radio station was my happy place, and I spent far too many hours there when I probably should have been in the library and studying. So if you had, like, when you're living off campus and you've got like that gap 2 or 3 hours between classes, other people go for coffee and being social. I was up in URE all the time.
We still have that now, actually, here in Rebel. Even if we're not doing Rebel stuff, we are always here. I think last year I was here very early hours in the morning, probably should have been in bed doing my dissertation, but no, I was here. So it's nice to know that that's still going, that we all have that in common.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we did a lot of fundraising stuff. I don't know whether you did as well, Andrew. We did big events for Comic Relief and Children in Need. I remember doing like shaving foam pies at 50p a pie, and you could splat anybody as they walked past. We did a gunk tank, and we had, the really unpopular people off campus, usually head of the Tories Society, would be on stage and being gunked and that kind of thing. So we raised a lot of money, actually. We're quite high profile when the station was sort of early 90s, because people still listen to radio. My worry is now that it's a dying art. Would you agree, Andrew?
I think probably I had some role in killing it, to be honest, given my abilities as a DJ. It's a fundraising stuff there was some of it going on, but of course, things like Comic Relief were 10 years ago away when I was still on campus. I can't remember exactly when Comic Relief first started, but it was certainly a fair time after I left university. So those sort of things didn't exist.
Yeah, we did our 50-hour rebellion last year. We did it on Twitch, but we also had it on Rebel Radio at the same time. But the numbers compared to people listening, to people watching, were very different. So this year we came away from radio and have just focused on Twitch, which does make our life a lot easier running this event. But it does show that radio is a dying art, which is a shame, because I think it's great. But we are like really sort of trying to bring that back, especially with Rebel Radio. We've had some technical difficulties with our radio studio this year, but we're really sort of determined to get it back up and running and hopefully have it up on campus. That would be great.
Yeah, I have to ask now, what's Twitch?
So now it's switched. So Twitch is a streaming platform where you can put on a video or a live video and anyone can watch it. So as of right now, our Zoom call is being streamed on Twitch. So anyone on campus can watch our video, our Zoom call. And that's
turn my camera on, is what you're saying.
Yeah, let's see your
yeah, that's how we've done our event this year, because we've realised that people like to watch things more than listen to them. And I think it's worked in our favour this year, because we've done a lot of silly content, a lot of fun content. And I think the enjoyment from watching it has really helped us get the donations in. So yeah, that's what Twitch is.
I'm enlightened.
So I'd love to know what your guys' experience overall at Essex was. I know you guys had a great time doing the media side of stuff, but how was studying? What was it like being?
Do you want to start, Anna, or shall I?
Carry on. And then I'll mull some answers.
Yeah. I mean, when I joined, when I got the place at Essex, so that was 1978. Essex University was a very different beast to what it is today, and had a very, very different reputation to what it does today. It was a significant number of people who went to Essex went there through what was called clearing. I'm sure it's probably still called clearing. So these were people who were ending up at Essex either as a second choice or because they couldn't get in anywhere else. I was rather unusual. In fact, I don't think I met many other people during my time. I actually chose to go to Essex.
So did I.
which was kind of a tactical decision at the time, because they offered me entry at 2 A levels, and I was doing economics, geography, and mathematics at A level. And I knew halfway through the A level maths course I was not going to get anywhere with maths. I don't know. I think some people just have an aptitude for maths and some don't. I don't. I was okay with it up to sort of O level, and then you had to take an interim exam halfway through the A level course, which was called an AS level at the time. I just scraped through that, and I knew I wasn't going to get an A level in maths. So the fact that I was being offered an entry on 2 based on 2 A levels, I knew that I was going to get the economics, and I knew I was going to get the geography. In fact, in the end, the economics, I got a grade A, which, that's why I specialised in economics and did that as a degree. Mm-hmm. So Essex was very left-wing leaning at the time. If you had politics anywhere sort of any further right from the centre of the left, the Labour Party, you were treated as something of a social pariah, and you certainly wouldn't let people know about it. But it's been interesting, post my graduation to sort of, through the Illumini website and things like that, and just through the general media, to see how much Essex has progressed as a university in terms of its standing, its size. It's a lot bigger place than it was when I was there. I mean, when I was there, it was mainly just the 4 north towers and 2 towers in the southern bit. Wow. William Morris and Bertram Russell, if I remember rightly.
I just think university is completely different. I actually just dispatched my stepson off to Oxford Brookes, and we went out to visit him last weekend. And I was shocked how his flat was silent. There was no music playing because everybody listens to music on their devices. There was no one hanging around the kitchen. The only way I knew it was a student flat was the 6 bags of rubbish that hadn't been taken out. And it was just, I think maybe as well because you've got to pay for it now. So maybe you do approach it a lot more seriously than maybe we did. I still took it seriously, but not having that sort of debt hanging over us maybe gave us a bit more freedom to be a bit more flexible about it. But I think, we didn't have mobile phones. So you sat in the kitchen and you chatted. Very few people would have a TV, or you had a communal TV. So you sat around. There was just more engagement with your peers and your friends and your friendship groups. I'm terrified for my stepson that making those human contacts and making those friendship groups is actually really hard.
Yeah.
And that should be living his best life. And it's quite a slow burn at the moment because he's quite a shy character. So it's like, oh, come on, mate, come on, you can do it.
Yeah, I think I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, I had my first year of uni on Zoom because that was during COVID. So I had no contact whatsoever with like the people on my course apart from over Zoom or a message, but it was really hard to sort of establish friendships over message if you haven't met the person in a class. But I think when you're in first year, you're all in the same boat and you all want to make friends, and whether or not you stay with the same friends from first year to third year, it happens very naturally. And then when we came back in person for second year, me and my course, we were all very, very close and it was great. So yeah, but there definitely is, I think, a difficulty making friends, especially nowadays. I mean, I'm sure it was a little bit of difficulty for you to make friends when you started, but I think the level it is nowadays is quite hard because of phones and TVs and just like isolating yourself. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when I first joined, I was in Rayleigh Tower, and the policy at that stage for flats in the towers was that they would be specific to a year group. So, freshers would be grouped into flats, so which was quite good because you've then got people who are all going through, the same sort of experience as you. And that, I am still in contact with people that I shared that first year flat with. I mean,
That's brilliant.
not day to day, but certainly on a reasonable. In fact, one of my flatmates, who was the one I did most of the radio with, Pete Pickett, I mentioned whether he wanted to join today, but he wasn't keen in terms of, he didn't know whether his Zoom worked and stuff like that. So
this technology, Andrew, it's hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, no. So I'm still in contact with people from that flat, and that I thought was a good start. I think particularly when you're all in the same boat, it certainly helps. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Second year, as I say, it was almost always the case that you have to live off campus. Because there was, much less population on campus.
Where did you live?
I live near, it's on the Bromley Road, which is about half an hour north of the campus. It was a really nice house, semi-detached house, 4 bedrooms, sharing of 4 other people. And it was a squaddies house. We'd gone off on tour. So a lot of that happened, of course, then, because Essex was a significantly large barracks for the British Army. So you had a lot of army people needing their accommodation filled whilst they were abroad, and that's where the university used to step in. But it used to be later on the Saturday night, after that show I used to do on a Saturday night, to walk home was sometimes a fair old trek, because we were carrying records as well. Bear in mind, we take records in because that's the way we built up our content. So. And obviously, having had a few pints in the Union Bar, it was sometimes.
Fine, you got
So, I mean, one thing I was going to ask. I mean, URE actually started, and I know this because I was there for the 10th anniversary on the 1st of March, 71. So I was there 1st of March 1981 for the 10th anniversary. We did all sorts of stuff. Is Rebel going to do anything to mark that?
I'm not sure. To be quite honest, I didn't know about Rebel until last year when I joined. And obviously Rebel started, I believe it might have been between 2017 to 2018.
Yeah.
Might got that wrong, but I think those years. And I wasn't aware that the university had radio before Rebel. That might have just been because of my age. But I feel like there's not enough like it's not really spoken about, or there's not really a lot of material here that says that it was around. So when I was speaking to the alumni team and they were like, yeah, we've got people here that want to come in and talk about them doing radio, I was like, we had radio before Rebel?
Oh, that's so sad.
I know. So
a radio time broadsheet of people. Yeah.
So I don't.
There'll be graduates out there at the moment, or sorry, the people out there at the moment thinking, did they have radio back in 1981?
But so it would be really great. I was speaking to the team. It would be really great if we did something with like people like alumni like you guys after the rebellion, to talk about the radio here at Essex and how it's progressed and what you guys used to do to what we do now, because I didn't know there was radio before Rebel.
Well, I know in the interim it was called Red, wasn't it? Red Radio, as far as I know. So it was University Radio Essex. I don't know when it swapped over. At one stage it was Red, called Red Radio.
I would say late 90s it swapped.
Sure.
As far as I know. But I mean, I know a guy who was my station manager who did my driving test, Ian Gardner, who's now in America and doing a show on Cool, KEWL FM. And I'm sure he would love to participate in something like that, for sure.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be really cool because we've got, obviously, I'm in our editorial team right now, and they love doing news pieces and articles about, stuff like this. And we've actually got articles and newspapers from the 70s all the way up to, I think that says 85. So it'd be really cool to do some sort of alumni collaboration for Rebel. Because I was shocked to see that we had radio and student media back then, so it'd be really cool to do that.
I'll have a rummage and see if I have any paper archives of anything that we kept. Might have kept a couple of bits, but
Perfect.
one of those, it gets lost in house moves, and you know, as you get older and you have to edit your life stuff, things you get.
I have stuff in plenty if anybody wants it.
Oh, these guys can save the day here with the history of you.
Fresher weeks, that sort of thing. I've got, but again, the chap I mentioned, Pete, he did record off the mix desk some of the shows that we did, just straight to audio cassette at that stage. And
I've got a couple of cassettes, just getting them off.
Because we talked about doing this, and he'd sent me a recording of one of these Saturday evening shows that we used to do, and listen to it. I mean, so that was quite early on in my radio career. I was astounded at how appallingly bad I was at doing it. I mean, it was literally, hello, my name is Andrew, and this record is queuing record. I was very good mechanically. I could always get the queuing quite good. Yeah. And I used to queue. I queued into the radio news, because at that stage we had a news feed from LBC, as I said, and that was the news.
Didn't you?
You'd have a URE jingle that said, "This is the news on the hour from URE," which you knew how long it was, and obviously you had to hit the start button on that very accurately so that you'd then fade up LBC. That bit of it I was quite good at. Talking, I was not so good at. It was very limited. I mean, I'm pretty certain that if you looked at some of my later shows when I was back on campus, when I was actually doing more content, I think I probably improved, although I'm sure it wasn't that much. But that, you know, those early shows were very much, you know, that was, this is, the time is, quickly, put a jingle on that, that'll fill some time.
There was a guy that just introduced every record. That was something called Let's Talk About Sex by Salt Pepper. That was something called da da da. And it was like, oh mate, you've got to find another way of doing that. It was just, I don't think he knew he did it. And then I called him out on it one day and he was just mortified. And I was like, oh no, I've really upset him now. But you've just got to find the stuff. It's not that you find a style, but you just find a way of doing it that suits your personality, or I have cheesy things like movie songs and sloppy bits like Gary Davies did on Radio 1. I mean, I was a radio nerd, and you know, to find out that Steve Wright had died this week, I was really sad about that, because I grew up with him, Radio 1 and through to Radio 2. So, and he's a legend and a absolute quality broadcaster. So it's that level that any presenter should aspire to, really, is that level of professionalism when they're presenting.
Yeah. Well, guys, we've got just one more minute before our slot finishes. I think as a student, I always want to ask alumni one question. And I think a lot of students watching would probably really appreciate this question. I'm sure you can understand what it's like to graduate from uni and go out to the real world and not really know where to go or what to do. So if you had any advice for students graduating this year and going out and trying to find a job, what advice would it be?
I'll go
from my perspective. I kind of, I've benefited from my degree, no question about it. Throughout my career, it has been a useful addition to my CV. I mean, the degree I did probably had some element of guiding me into the career that I finally got into. Mm-hmm. It wasn't planned. I mean, I do insurance. I'm an insurance broker, still working as an insurance broker. But I only got into insurance through going to a careers fair up in London with a few friends, one of whom sat down at the desk of the Cooperative Insurance Society, and he'd done an arts degree. And they said, he sort of called across to me and said, "Wait, you did economics, sit down here." So I did. And that was it. I was in insurance. But, you know, throughout that career in various bits of the insurance market, the fact that I had a degree, you know, had a benefit. It got me through two courses in my professional examination. The insurance industry, you have what's called the the Chartered Insurance Institute exams, which are, you know, essentially chartered exams. You become a chartered broker at some stage when you pass them. And, you know, the fact that I'd done economics and maths at Essex got me through 2 of those courses. So, you know, direct benefit from doing those 3 years. Plus, I think, you know, I always saw it as a joint thing. You know, yes, it got me a qualification, but B, I valued it because it got me out of home at you know, at 18 years old. Not because I wanted to get out of home, but because it, you know, it made me get out of home and learn how to cater for myself, because obviously the towers were self-catering. And that I thought was as important to me as a person as the academic side of things.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Anna?
I'm going to say the polar opposite. Absolutely the polar opposite, because I don't really use my degree in my life at all. The French I used because I did a year abroad in Lyon, and then after I finished, I went and was a ski rep for a year and a half. So I would say that it doesn't, what you'd study now isn't necessarily your life plan. I have changed careers, I've changed directions, I've pivoted, and just, it's the skill set. So do what makes you happy, do what gives you your soul, that you enjoy doing. If you hate going to work, then something's wrong. You know, just take little snippets of skills from different jobs and then build it into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But take every opportunity that comes your way at university. So I went to a recruitment fair at Camp America, ended up going to America for 3 years. Someone else mentioned something else, took me off in another direction. So just keep your ear to the ground and see what comes along, and just say, I fancy the sound of that, I'll give it a go. Because life's too short, you know. If you just get to 40 and live with a life of regrets, then no, life is worth living. So if this opportunity comes along, you get to go traveling, you get to go and see and do, go off and do it, because you just never know what it's going to take you next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on and being a part of our rebellion. It's been lovely talking to you. Hopefully we can do a collaboration in the future with Rebel, because it'd be great to talk to you again. But yeah, thank you so much for taking your time to come on here. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
I'm Will. Hey, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Ken, I don't know if you can hear us or anything.
I can hear you, Rebekah.
Perfect.
I can see you, but I can't see myself.
Have you got your camera on, or is it off for a reason? Is that preference? You don't have to have it on.
How do I switch it on if it's off?
It's normally, you've got the microphone button. It's normally next to that. It will either say stop video, and you can put it on.
Oh, start video.
Yeah.
There you
go. Perfect. How are you guys doing? Thank you so much for coming here and being a part of our rebellion. But how are you doing?
Fine. Yes, despite my age.
I'm very good here too. How's the broadcast going?
It's going well, actually. I think today is our last full day, and we end tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we've got a few more hours to go, and we've raised £400, and our target is 500. So we're doing really well.
Amazing. Congratulations. Beacon House is a great charity.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. I had the great privilege of going down there actually and meeting Steve, the CEO, and he showed myself and the team around, and yeah, it's just an incredible charity. So we're really, really glad that we chose them this year. So I guess what we should do is, if you want to introduce yourselves, say what you studied here at the Essex Uni and what year you graduated.
Who do you want to go first, Rebekah?
I can go first. I mean, I'm still a student here. I actually graduated my BA last year. I did a BA in drama, and I'm doing my MA in script writing at the moment. And I think I finish in September this year. So I'm still going. I'm still powering through.
Ken, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. So I can embarrass myself before you do. Okay. I did computer science at Essex University. I started in 1971 and graduated in 1974. My hometown is Hong Kong, so I was a long way from home when I first went to Essex, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself there.
What was it like being really far away from home?
Well, it was quite interesting because in Hong Kong, in those days, it was a very safe place. And from about the age of 8, I had a lot of independence. I could go into town on the bus on my own and hang out with friends in town and all that kind of thing. So I was quite used to being independent. What I found when I got to Essex was a lot of people who I shared a flat with, by the way, in Bertrand Russell, they were away from home for the very first time. And as a consequence, several of them had struggles in coping with not having the support of their own home behind them. Yeah. And I ended up as a bit of an agony aunt for a few of my friends. And hopefully I helped them through a very bad phase.
Oh. Like I'm always so astonished with international students because I actually live locally in Colchester. I did look around, but I'm always sort of surprised that they're able to just go so far away from home for a long time, because I don't think that I could do that. So yeah, I don't know how you did it, but you did. So well done.
Well, as I say, I was quite used to being independent. It was the other people who were away from home for the first time where it became a little bit traumatic for them.
Yeah,
I guess the same happens today. I would assume.
But yeah, definitely. But the universities, I know for a fact that they're so great at helping people with like feeling homesick, and if they are really far away from home, they're brilliant at doing that. And University of Essex has so many international students, so they're obviously doing a great job. That people obviously want to come here for a reason. So yeah, it's good.
Good. How about Will? Yeah.
What about you, Will? What did you?
I was there from 86 to 89, and I studied government under the late great Ivor Crewe and Anthony King. And again, had a brilliant time. I'd come up from Sussex, so not that far, but not as far as Hong Kong. And I think there's always a culture shock if you've lived at home up to that point and suddenly you're living on the 11th floor. And again, I was in Bertrand Russell Tower in my first year and then moved out to a student house in Alresford, just the other side of Wivenhoe, and had a great time. And the student radio station, University Radio Essex, as it was at that time, I literally turned up on the first day I was there in the first week of term, and went and introduced myself to the radio station. And that was a brilliant support mechanism because it was such an amazing family of people. And I ran the radio station from 87 to 89 and have gone on to be lucky enough to work in radio since then. So it was a brilliant training and had just the most fabulous time at Essex University.
Yeah, that actually leads on to my next question, is how was your experience of being a student here overall? I don't know who.
Well, I had an excellent time at Essex. Unfortunately, my academic performance seemed to peak in the first year and went downwards for the simple reason I got so involved in student life. I was a member of URE, University Radio Essex, and I did several programs a week on this station. But I was also involved in something called UTO, which was the Union Technical Organization. And that was an organization which did all the sound and lighting for concerts and plays and discos and all kinds of things. So as you can imagine, I had an awful lot of very, very late nights. Part of the attraction of being with UTO was every time we did a disco, we would get free beer, of course, which was a real motivation. So I really did enjoy my time at Essex, probably more so than my parents would have approved of. But I did come out with a degree in computer science, and I managed to get a job with, at that time, the second largest computer company in the world, which was called Digital Equipment. Yeah, so I mean, I may not have been too diligent in my studies, but it all worked out well at the end of the day. Thank God.
And I think it's the people and the friends that make it, because yeah, I had absolutely the best time. Again, sort of centered around the student radio station, which took up far more of my time than it should have done. But also a brilliant flat. And as you say, the mix of people that's quite unlike anything you've ever met before. The mix of people in your student flat. We had a great flat on the 11th floor of Bertrand Russell with a really cool bunch of people, some of whom I'm still in touch with today, and managed to squeeze in a few lectures in between that. And also just being part of the community in Wivenhoe and Alresford was fun in my second and third years as well. So no, absolutely the best time. And as you say, very supportive and some really good people.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you guys have been to the university since graduating. Have you? Yeah, you have? Great.
Yes, I have. It was really interesting.
How much has it changed for you since being here as a student?
That's a very good question. Obviously, there were a few more extra buildings that have gone up, but you know, the essence of it was pretty much the same. The reason I went was quite interesting. I said earlier that I worked for UTO, the Union Technical Organization, and we had a reunion. And we all used to live pretty much in Bertrand Russell 12. So we arranged with the university for us to come during the summer holidays, and we had Bertrand Russell 12, and the whole group of us, all 16 of us, were in that flat. And the university did us proud, and we had a wonderful time. And it was over a weekend. We arrived on the Friday and left on the Sunday evening, and it was great to see all the people again. You can gather by that we're all in touch. And indeed, I'm about to have lunch with my boss at UTO, is a lady called Jane Armitage, who I meet with quite regularly for a pint and a pie.
Great combination.
And it's just grown so much since I was there. I mean, when I was there, it was just the Six Towers and Wolston Court, which I think was built in the 80s, so was relatively new when I was there. And so to come back and see the new square, all the new accommodation buildings, a multi-story car park. It's changed so much and just grown enormously. But I think Ken, you're absolutely right. The essence, the atmosphere still feels the same as when I was there. That it's a fantastic place. And I was back recently because I found some old recordings, some reels of tape, which is how I was in touch with the alumni centre that hooked us up today. I found some old reels of tape, which may even date back to your day, Ken, because I think it was the fifth birthday celebrations with Brian Lister and people like that on it.
Yeah.
Some old reels of tape that we'd found in the studio and had been put in somebody's loft for many years. And I found them again a couple of years ago and thought, somebody needs to look after these properly and make sure they're not lost, because they're, the first 4 or 5 years of the radio station.
Wow.
And wanted to take, and because I just live in Chelmsford now, wanted to come back and hand them in. So they're now in the care of the university library, which was also, as you say, a lovely opportunity to come back and see the place as well and see how much it's changed and yet hasn't.
I can imagine that when you guys came back, some memories came flooding back as well. And I'd love to know your favourite memory of your time here at Essex.
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know, from my perspective, I was very much into live music. And we used to be on the university circuit for bands, many of whom faded away, but quite a few became very famous. For example, we had Pink Floyd, and we had bands like avant-garde bands like Roxy Music in those days, and my best memories were watching all these bands, because you realize that in Hong Kong we never got to see things like that. Bands didn't travel around the world in those days, and to come here and almost every weekend having a new band to see was just fantastic. That's the thing that really stands out in my mind about my time at Essex, and it really drove me into if you like, broadcasting. That's why I was attracted to University Radio Essex. And even after I left university, I kept coming back to the station to continue doing a program for another year. Mind you, I did have a girlfriend who was still at Essex, which helped. But after that, I wanted to continue broadcasting, even as just a hobby. And I ended up living in Reading, and I joined Hospital Radio Reading, and I spent 20 years there.
Wow.
Ken, can you clear something up for me? Were those bands in the Hexagon? What's now, I think, the Hexagon restaurant?
Well, no. There was a dance floor which was underneath where the student union corridor was. Okay, and that's where most of the bands performed. There were occasional concerts in the Hexagon, but they tended to be relatively minor. For example, that we would have perhaps folk performers, the odd solo guitarist that would give a concert in the Hexagon. But the bands, the ones I was into, the rock bands, they were certainly in the dance floor.
Because I think there's a blue plaque now on the Hexagon that says Pink Floyd played here at some point. And I wasn't sure that was right.
No, that wasn't right. It wasn't the Hexagon. Pink Floyd played in what was called, I don't know if it's the same now, but it's called the Lecture Theatre Block. Okay. And LTB 3 and 4, I think there was a partition that you could separate, and make it into a very big auditorium. And that's where Pink Floyd played.
Well, Rebekah, you need to move that blue plaque then.
I know, we have the Hex now, and actually we have a music society that performs there still. And it's a space that's used for classes and stuff. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I was told that Bob Marley performed at the Hex. Is that right?
I know Bob Marley performed at Essex. Unfortunately, I wasn't really into reggae in those days. I was more of a hard rock fan.
Right. because I'm currently in our editorial room, and we've got articles and newspapers dating back from the 74 to 85, and I think one of them is about Bob Marley coming here to perform, and I think it mentions the Hex. I'll have to double check that, but interesting how Pink Floyd didn't perform at the Hex. I thought they did.
And that's what I thought from the blue plaque.
Nice.
I think these sort of rumors percolate down through the years.
Yeah,
that I know the Hex was at one of the music venues, but it's certainly in my day it was again what I know as the dance hall, and I think it's called Sub-Zero.
Yes, yeah.
Now. Yeah. And one of the things I was remembering was the radio station used to have some lines down to the dance hall and over to the lecture theatre block as well, so that we could do outside broadcasts and concerts and things and broadcast them, carry the election hustings from the LTB. That was one of the things I worked on while I was at the student radio station. And then the count, because it was run by the Students' Union, was in the dance hall underneath, and we did outside broadcasts down a very long piece of bell wire, no Bluetooth in those days, to do broadcasts from the election counts and do sort of proper election, BBC style election night programs and so on. So that's one of my memories, running up and down between the studios, because at that point, and I think this would have been the case in your day, Ken, the studios were at the top of the stairs off Square 3 above the security office.
That's correct. Yes, it was interesting. In my day, the broadcasting was done via an induction loop system, which was installed in each of the towers. And the idea was that it would only broadcast within the boundaries of the campus. But of course, with the Department of Electronic Engineering, a lot of our technical people were able to do their magic, and we had reports of URE being heard in London.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a bit naughty, because I don't know about now, but in those days, radio was very strictly regulated. And that was an absolute no-no. But being rebellious students, that's the kind of thing that we got up to.
Yeah, I feel like Essex is known for being a little bit rebellious. I think, we're called Rebel for a reason, so that still goes on even today. So it's
excellent.
Good.
Yeah, the station broadcast on medium wave when I was there was still on 999 to the towers, and then in the 90s, the regulators were a little more relaxed, so there was a proper free radiating transmitter that broadcast. There was a transmitter at the back of Bertrand Russell where the South Courts are now, and that broadcast again on medium wave on 1404 to an area about a mile or two round the campus. The broadcasts were only again meant to be for the campus, but you could unofficially hear it off campus, and that continued through the 90s, and I think sort of ended around the 2000s. But there were also again shortly after I left, 1 month FM broadcasts, because you can get a license to broadcast to the town for up to 28 days. So for 1 or 2 months a year, there'd also be a signal, there'd also be broadcasts on 87.7 to the whole of Colchester, giving the town an opportunity to hear the radio station student broadcasts. So yeah, lots has changed over the years, and it's great that it's still there, just in a slightly different way from what certainly by the end of my time there was a 24-hour fully broadcasting radio station.
Yeah, we're Rebels we're quite a small team. We do as much as we can, and we have the goal to hopefully get our radio station up and running on campus so we can have students listening. But yeah, we are trying our best to get that on I think, and there's not so many people interested in radio nowadays, which is a shame. But we really do try and sort of advertise it and just show people how fun it is, because it is really fun, and you've got the freedom to do whatever you want.
That's the thing I remember, and the thing I was going to say is the main thing is it's a brilliant opportunity to have a lot of fun on air, make mistakes, find out what works, find out what you enjoy, learn from the mistakes, keep the good bits. And it's amazing. It's an amazing skill and a great bunch of people. And the other thing I would say is make sure you're part of the Student Radio Association, which I've done some work with. I was lucky enough to be made an honorary life member in 2008 for work with student radio. And it's an amazingly supportive bunch of people. There's 65 other student radio stations around the country, the Student Radio Awards, the Student Radio Conference, things like that. They're all enormously supportive. Essex was one of the founder members, I believe, of the predecessor to the SRA, the National Association, NASB, National Student Association of Student Broadcasters, and Essex was one of the founder members of that. So it would be great to see you back as a member of the Student Radio Association. And also the Radio Academy has a huge amount of resources for people wanting to get into radio. So those would be my two plugs, if I can take the opportunity to abuse use this platform. Would be become part of that, and they're two enormously supportive organisations who can help you learn from what other student radio stations are doing. The awards are a great way of getting some content recognised on a national platform. They're supported by Radio 1 and by Global, who own Heart and Capital. So, they're an amazing opportunity for you.
Yeah, I definitely will take on that advice, because we definitely want to grow our radio station again, for sure. We're nearing to the end of our slot. And as a current student, there's always one question that I want to ask alumni, and I think other students will really appreciate me asking you this. But as you know, once you graduate from university, there is that fear of going out into the world and trying to find a job, whether that is what you want to do or not. So do you have any advice for any students graduating this year?
Wow, interesting question. What I would say is, have confidence in yourself. There's nothing worse than going out into the world, and I've seen people like this, and they just seem to lack the confidence to even be bothered to try and do something. And I think that's terrible. They're not only letting themselves down, but they're letting, if you like, our society down as well. And just have confidence. Yes, you will have disappointments. That's all part of life, and you have to be able to cope with that. So if you get knocked down, get straight back up again and go again. That's my advice.
Lovely. What about you?
And I'll take that and build on it and say, be yourself, be your authentic, your true self. And the fact, if they're already listening to this and being part of Rebel, you've already taken the first step, because it's such good experience. As I say, use it to play with radio, audio, video, socials, play with creating that content. Don't copy. When I say be somebody else, listen to everything you possibly can, hear how other people are doing it, take that, but don't try and copy it. Put your own spin on it. That's what the best presenters do. They learn from what's gone before, but put their own modern, fresh, new, authentic spin on it. But by being part of Rebel, you've already taken the first step. I wouldn't be doing what I am now without having done University Radio Essex and been at Essex University and made such good friends and had such good experiences. So that would be my advice. Make the most of it.
Yeah, here.
Thank you guys so much. I'd love for Rebel to do a collaboration with alumni in the future, even after Rebellion, because it's been great to talk to some of you guys and have your experience in being a part of the radio. So if you would be interested in doing something possibly in the future, that would be great. But for now, thank you so much for being a part of our rebellion. We really appreciate it. And I hope you have a really good rest of your day.
Brilliant. Keep it up, and you're doing a fantastic job raising money for a great charity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rebekah. You take care now.
Much. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.
My camera on?
If you like, you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to, though.
You're Rebekah, I guess.
I am Rebekah, yes. Lovely to meet you. How are you doing?
Just fine, thank you.
Good, good. So if you just wanted to introduce yourself, say who you are, what you studied here at Essex, and what year you graduated.
Okay. I'm Crispin Hodges. I studied electronics, but did a lot of other things as well. Particularly got involved in the campus radio station, which at the time was called URE. And sorry, what was the third question?
Just what year you graduated?
1973.
Wow.
So that's a lot of years ago.
Yeah. So what was your experience like here at Essex?
Oh, it was fantastic. It was probably one of the greatest moments of my life, I guess, or moments, 3 years.
Yeah.
Fascinating, and access to so many people and things, and actually, I've found a lot of friends that are still with me.
Great.
53 years or whatever later.
That's brilliant.
Yes. 52 years later.
Wow.
So.
Good. What were some of your favourite moments?
Well, or experiences, perhaps I'll say.
Yeah.
Well, there were some fantastic bands came. There were lots of concerts at the time, Genesis, and I was particularly keen on Curved Air and a band called Fairport Convention. And of course, there's I think there's an album what we did on our holidays is in fact a drawing they did on one of the lecture rooms boards that they and so that's sort of preserved in history. But I guess for me it was the social freedom and the radio station, which was fantastic to be involved in just as it went on air, surrounded by people who could, we felt we were real innovators at the time.
Yeah.
And then total, pretty well unfettered access to computers, which at the time was a really big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Punch cards in those days and streaming tape with holes in and threading up the tapes, just like in the old movies with computers. We were really doing that. And the computers were just sort of wild. I remember it was a big day when the mainframe arrived, which had 1 megabyte of memory. And
wow.
Now my phone is massively more computing than the whole of Essex had, probably times 1,000.
What kind of stuff did you get up to in the radio?
We tried to do everything. I guess in our generation, radio was the big thing and music was the big thing. So there was an attempt to run a news operation. There was lots of people, of course, students, and it's probably the case today, wanted to play their personal records on air, sort of ego trip thing. But we actually tried a bit of drama and only got to 2 or was it 3 episodes. That was great fun, and that's. I guess I've always sat in the space between hard engineering and the sort of arts side, and I've been very happy to sit in the middle. And indeed, that became a really good basis for a career for me, or career or three. So yeah, it was, and I guess also, I mean, things were different then. So I'd say much more of us came from single-sex schools. So we probably, it's very different today, isn't it? Nearly everyone's in co-educational schools, but then that probably brought out the worst behaviour in the boys. Not really knowing how to cope. And there weren't enough women, I'll have to say. It wasn't 50-50 because the subjects were limited. On the whole, had a bias, I think, for some of the male subjects. And things have changed. I was really shocked to discover there was no longer a chemistry department. I wasn't in chemistry, but at the time there was a chemistry department, but that seems to have withered on the vine. And obviously it was much, much smaller.
Yeah.
All the campus accommodation was in the towers. So that was great, sort of being mixed with, I guess that still happens, but some strangers, and so they covered different subjects and things, and it was very good socially. Yeah. I remember the Film Society was very good, had lots of films. I don't know if that's still going.
We do have a film society, actually. Yeah, we do.
And but we weren't always that well behaved. I remember some of the love scenes of the students sort of made animal noises like cows mooing and things. And then the other thing, having last year gone to the alumni weekend, was discovering how Wivenhoe House was not like 100 miles away, which at the time, I don't think there was the lighting, but walking up to the house, to Wivenhoe House, was like a major thing. There was a bar up there we could use. And indeed, I got involved in, but it was never very successful because no one wanted to go that far, building a remote studio. We built all the equipment and the like and put it up there, but very few programs were done from there because no one could be bothered to walk up that far.
Yeah, there's a lot of hills on this campus, I will say that. A lot of hills. I feel like walking to class was just a workout on its own a lot of the time.
Well, I do a lot of walking now, so I see it as almost no challenge at all.
Yeah, maybe I'll get used to it then.
It'd be good for you.
Yeah. So apart from the radio, were you a part of any other societies at all?
No,
just the radio.
That wasn't really a society. It was just a sort of, I turned up, but as soon as I heard about it, I turned up and stood in a room until someone gave me something to do, and then I got more and more involved. And obviously there's a churn, isn't there, every year? A third of the people leave and a third of new people come in, and I got more and more responsibility, and it was always plenty of things to volunteer to do. So the rest, I guess, was more social life and the music, and as I say, with me, the computer thing, which was been such an advantage. Some of those things that I got access to been such an advantage in my career as I went forward. I feel I was very well prepared by the university.
Good. Have you had the chance to come back to campus since graduating?
Yeah, several times. I was there over the summer.
Brilliant.
And I'm saddened to see the lake has got smaller because of the student centre, but equally it's a very nice student centre. Oh yeah, the library used to be beside the lake.
Oh right.
So I was incredibly impressed with the business centre.
Yes, yeah.
That is so lovely.
A lovely building, yeah.
And I'm much more environmentally aware now, so it's really so impressive. And in terms of atmosphere, I was thinking about this. I think I almost felt resentful. I feel at the time I went to Essex, it was one of the new universities, and they were, the old universities were sort of sticking the mud and very heavily into research. But I'm not sure the staff, even at Essex in the electronics section, was that interested in the undergraduates. I think the emphasis has changed, so they are more interested. But it was kind of we were an annoyance. We had to occasionally be taught things. But I learned so much from fellow undergraduates, I guess. The guys at the radio station would explain things and give me encouragement and show me the projects they were working on and the like. And so I found it pretty stimulating. But I never, ever saw the professor.
Oh, really?
Yes. And maybe he had personal problems, but he, never. But not even when we first arrived. And there were odd little stories. I remember in the first year, I don't know if this is still a thing, we had to do a sort of multidisciplinary, had to choose 2 other courses in the first year. We were doing electronics. I chose, I think it was maths. I think it pretty well had to be maths. And what was the other one? Physics, I guess. So that was an annoyance, really. We wanted to get on with actually what I guess in terms of electronics was more practical as well, or potentially practical. It wasn't just the theory. It was actually, we wanted to know how to design circuits and how telephones worked and things.
Yeah.
I have a slightly amusing story about the one, on the whole, we're good engineers and we turned up to all the lectures, but there was one on how the telephone system worked, which had probably twice the number of people that were officially on the course attending, because everyone at the time wanted to know how to freak the telephone system, dial calls from anywhere. And at the time, it became very fashionable to dial, not by using the dial on the phone, but by tapping the handset to send the pulses, by tapping the top. And we ruined a few phones that way. I don't think they were designed for rapid tapping, but if you wanted a 9, you just tapped very quickly 9 times and then waited, and then that's twice, and that's 9-2, and you could dial wherever you liked. So we gave the system a bit of a run around, I guess, and those who had the technology, because there were also people sponsored by the GPO who ran the telephone, became BT, but they were just the post office at that stage, and we actually ran in my flat most of any room with someone from the electronics department had run a telephone extension into the tower room. So if you got a phone call, you could take it in your room, which was very innovative at the time. And I probably shouldn't say, I'm not going to give you the names on this one, but
that's fine.
I was party to, I was very much in the environment of some people who worked out how to make a master key that opened every door in the university.
Wow.
And even the security people didn't have that. They were in groups, and until you bought all the groups, the people who made, I think it was Union, who made the locks, wouldn't give you the master key.
Wow.
So there were, I'm not sure anything very nefarious was done, but there were times when people were chased through the university when they were detected there and could get through the doors massively quicker because they only had one key to try.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. So yeah, there was. So I guess that's one of the stories.
Yeah.
Don't know. There are plenty of others, but I'm trying to think.
I was talking to some alumni about the concerts and stuff that used to happen at the Hex. I don't know if you went to any of them and what they were like.
Well, actually, when I was there, the Hex was, I think, a restaurant, a not very successful restaurant.
Okay.
Selling sausages that had never seen any meat, although I would say from my recent visit that hasn't changed much. So no, we had them in the main lecture Oh no, I think. No, there's a huge underground area where.
Yeah, I mean,
under Square 3, I guess.
Yeah, we've got I think that's where Sub-Zero is, which is the underground nightclub now. Yeah, I think that's where they might have been for you.
We had some in the lecture hall. I don't know what it's called. A sort of as you come down the hill from Bertrand Russell, the thing on the left.
Yeah, we've got the lecture theatre building.
Yeah, there was some in there as well. I remember I saw some concerts there, and that's where the film club I think was, and the like. And there was a lot of, for some people, there was a lot of drinking. I spent all my money on other things, but
lots of drinking. That still happens here at Essex.
Yes.
That still goes on. Do you live? I assume you lived on campus for your first year.
And second and third, but the second it was not meant to be there. But the study bedroom rooms I slept in every night, unless someone was away, and then I would very often blag a bed.
Where did you stay in your first year?
Tawny.
Oh wow, nice. And how was that?
Well, I loved it. There was nothing else really. That was the place to be. Everybody else had to. The buses ended so early. People had to go off at sort of 9 o'clock in the evening, and then they'd have to wait ages for the bus. And those days, virtually no one had a car, and partly because of that, I don't know if it's still the case, but there were lots of people hanging around on campus at the weekends. So it was a great social life at the weekends. And there was exodus by some people who had cars, disappeared off to London. I think lots of the staff did.
Yeah.
As I noted, the arts lecturers all seemed to never give any sort of tutorials or anything on a Friday or a Monday. Whereas we did have more, but we didn't pay that much attention. Other than that, there was too much to do, too much to play at, and to be honest, I think that was so valuable.
Yeah,
because I went into broadcasting, and it got me interviews, and it got me the job.
Brilliant.
And
what was the social life like in your accommodation? Because the first interview I did with some alumni, I think her name was Anna, and she said that she took her son to university recently, and that the atmosphere within the student accommodation was drastically different to what it was when she went. As you're saying, it's very isolating, and I suppose it's because people nowadays have their phones, they don't play music out loud anymore. So what was the social life like for you in your accommodation your first year?
Oh, it was great. I mean, people kept on nicking my milk. I was the only organised person to go and buy milk, and people all felt they could have a little bit and I wouldn't notice, and by the morning and there was none left. But no, it was really good. I don't know how things are organised, but in the towers, the flats were either male or female, and but so 2 floors down to the nearest female floor. I remember. Other sort of things that probably I shouldn't be talking about. They've done a lot of fixing the windows so they can't be opened, but at the time they weren't. And the milk arrived in cartons, and water bombing people as they left the tower was a really big thing.
Really?
From 8 floors up or whatever. I was expecting anybody one of those probably wasn't fun, but I don't think anyone was ever hospitalised. And I've often had amusement chuckling about the worst culprit in one of the flats I was in. He was very accurate, very active at it, had perfect blue eyes, and someone came to try and sort it all out and have a word with us, and he spoke to the guy, head of accommodation or something. I looked him straight in the face and claimed, no, we never dropped any water bombs. It was other people, and we were going to complain. and he was glad he'd come and blah, blah, blah. And that was bad enough. I never could have told a straight lie like that. But as the guy left, the same guy dropped the water bomb on, hit him bang on the head as he walked out the tower. So that was part of the social life, I guess.
Yeah, it's good to know that Essex still has that sort of rebellious and silly essence to it. It still has it now, so it's good to know that it was.
We were proud of it, really, because I guess in '69 it had been much, much worse. So we felt we had a reputation to try and sort of keep up with. The politics students seemed to constantly be organising strikes and the like. And I think the engineers on the whole perhaps the lecturers didn't turn up. They didn't want to cross the picket line, so our lectures got cancelled anyway, but we didn't exactly stand around and march around.
Yeah. Did you have any favourite like hangout spots with your friends to go to?
There was the coffee bar in Square 4, which is no longer there. I think it sort of moved down effectively to underneath it. That was a place where people particularly hung out. But then in the opposite corner was the student bar at the time. And there was Barclays Bank, which was funny because we were boycotting Barclays, or some people were. Actually, quite a few people did because it's involved in South Africa. But equally, there were some students who were sponsored by them who were very well off, who paid more than the basic grants and the like. But for me, I guess, in all honesty, most of my social time was either in the flat or the radio station.
Nice.
The computer stuff was more solitary. But the gigs were great.
Good. As we sort of come near to the end of our slot, I always have one question that I like to ask alumni, and I think other students would really appreciate it as well. Obviously, you graduated, so you understand the sort of fear or stress of going out into the world and trying to find a job, whether that is in what you want or finding something that just pays bills or something that you enjoy. So if you did have any advice for students graduating this year, what would it be?
If you possibly can, go for what you really want to do in your heart and don't end up in a job where you'll hate working. I've seen that happen with people. But also, I guess people came out with a sense of entitlement and perhaps sometimes a bit shocked it took a few years before they were recognised and promoted. You have to accept you're going to go in at the bottom and work your way up, but it won't last forever. And so you just have to live within your means until you get there. But I know it's a lot more difficult now with student loans and things. I had no student loan. I ended up on a full grant. So because my father had died and my mother hadn't remarried, or I hadn't been adopted. So I was incredibly lucky in that respect. I understand the financial pressures now, but I guess in the end, the state will end up paying, won't they? Do what you want to do.
We do get a decent amount of years to pay it off, so that's good. But yeah, I will be graduating from my master's, I think, at the end of this year, and I'm hopefully planning to become a freelancer. But I understand that that's easier said than done. So I think I'll probably spend maybe the first year just trying to find my footing.
Is this in journalism or what?
No, so I'm doing a master's in script writing. So I did a BA in drama, and then I started my MA in script writing here. And I love all things creative arts, and that's why I want to be a freelancer, because I can't pinpoint specifically what I want to do. I just love everything.
I'm not sure that's going to work well, because on the whole, the freelancing, from my point of view, is after you've learned how to do the job and you can show a load of stuff on your CV. To try and go in as a freelancer, it's be difficult to get noticed unless lots of your mates end up in good jobs and they can phone you up and say, "Oh, come and join me." I would have thought that would be a challenge, but
I'm definitely going to get a job on the side for sure to make sure I've got some money coming in. But I think the first year would just me sort of experimenting at job, seeing what I want to do, seeing where I want to go. And I think, I think for other students, it would be good just to have the confidence to do that. And the number one thing I don't want to do is to get stuck in a job that I really don't like.
No, I think that's really important because, yeah, it is. The other thing, but I'm not sure this is relevant, that one of the mistakes I made was that at the last term of my last year, people just evaporated when they'd done their last exam, etc. And so it was a challenge to get back in contact with people. That's going to be much less so now with smartphones and things. But I could have done with gone round and taken people's phone numbers down and things like that. It took a long time to get in contact, and I lost contact with a few. So those social aspects of university, that'll go. You'll be on your own in a flat somewhere or sharing, I guess. That's, I think, a very different world. I think we were very lucky being a baby boomer.
Yeah.
No longer a baby.
Absolutely. So yeah,
I wish you every success at that.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being a part of our rebellion this year. It's been really great to talk to alumni and sort of talk about your experiences here at Essex. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
It's a pleasure. Nice to have met you.
Yeah, it's really nice to meet you too. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. See you later. Thank you.
Bye.
Dozen commercial radio stations that had set up, went round to visit them, and two of them offered me a job.
Wow.
And that was largely because, thanks to the radio station, I knew how to use a tape recorder, I knew how to record interviews, I knew how to cut tape, I'd spent time in a studio, and so I got offered a job, and it's kind of just gone from there. So yeah, thank you, Essex.
Ah, well, I'm glad you got to do what you love, because that's really important.
For sure. And quite a few of us. I mean, quite a few. And first of all, I also got a heap of friends out of it. A lot of the people I'm still in touch with and friendly with are my contemporaries from university days. And quite a few of us went into broadcasting, transmission in some shape or form. Quite a few of the people I was really close to were what we called the Grimbles. They were the engineering side. And they some people went into TV, some people wired up large parts of the world for colour television. A couple of guys ended up working for the post office in telecoms. So yeah, Essex did us proud, really.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So apart from all of the amazing radio stuff, what was your experience overall here at Essex?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, I remember my father was very against me going to Essex, very against it.
Why?
And because it was radical, it was modern. He didn't like the idea of it at all. And I can't remember either in my first or second year, there was a big sort of student riot and sit-in. And there was a letter in the Daily Telegraph, which was what my dad read every morning religiously. And it just said, "Dear Sir, is the University of Essex really necessary?" And my dad cut it out and sent it to me. Remember, this is pre-mobile phones.
Yeah.
I actually got a letter in my pigeonhole with this little cutting from the Daily Telegraph saying, "Is it really necessary?" And I don't think he forgave me until I actually joined the BBC. And he kind of accepted that maybe Essex had been a good launching pad. But I loved it. I mean, the campus was very stark. I know when we came back for the reunion over the summer, I was blown away by how beautiful it was. All the greenery and all the extra building. But it was stark. There were only 2,000 students. So you kind of knew everybody. I loved living in towers. So my first year, I was mainly in Keynes. And through that, I made friends, and we pretty well made up a flat of friends. We moved up to Bertrand Russell, and then in my third year, we were in Rayleigh. Loved it. Spent most of my time there. Quite a few of the vacations, I stayed on campus and worked.
Wow.
I did research work for some of the academics. Loved Colchester. No, it was just a really good experience all round.
Wow. I mean, I like to hear that there were riots and, you know, stuff like that, because I think nowadays Essex still has its rebellious side, and we're still known for that. I mean, our studio is called Rebel, so it's nice to know that that's still going strong.
Yeah, I'll tell you one of the things that happened in the middle of that. So there were hundreds of police down underneath the, I don't know what you call it. What's the sort of the underneath area, underneath all the squares, the kind of.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, under there.
So
yeah.
there was a massive standoff down there. There were hundreds of police versus hundreds of students. And then all kinds of media descended, like mainly tabloid journalists. And I don't know how, but I think he was from the Daily Mail, sought me out and said, "Oh, you're the station manager. How about you let me go on your radio station and offer a reward for the first student to streak naked across the campus?" And I said, "I can see that would make a great story for the Daily Mail, but I don't think we'll do that. Not going to fall into that tabloid trap." So
Wow.
yeah, it was a good time.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, you know, obviously from your experience, you've had an incredible time here at Essex, but are there any favourite moments that you look back on particularly?
I remember the last night of my first year when I was in Keynes. Quite a few of my friends were third years, and one of them, who's a really close friend, so he was leaving, so it was his last night at Essex, and we sat out on the grass on the mound behind the towers and looked out at the towers silhouetted against the sunset and thought, wow, you know, what a good time we've had here. Yeah, that last night of first year. But, you know, I remember in the summer sitting around the lake. I think one year someone caught a goose and tried to cook it and made themselves seriously ill because they didn't take the innards out and stuff. I remember brilliant concerts. The radio station guys were also part of, I think it was called UTO, which was something like the Union Technical Office. They organised all the gigs. And I think it was tradition that Fairport Convention came and played. I saw some amazing bands at Essex.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you my other memory. So one vacation I worked in the canteen, and my job was, actually it wasn't, it was during term time. And my job was loading the dishwasher, biggest dishwashers I've ever seen in my life, in the Hex canteen. I think something like 2 days a week or 2 evenings a week. I'd do an evening shift in the Hex, and clear tables and load dishwashers. Kept me going.
That's really interesting, because now the Hex is used as a teaching space, or we have our music society that does a lot of gigs there. And actually quite a few societies use it as like a really creative space as well. I've had some classes in there. So it's really interesting to hear that it used to be a restaurant.
Yeah,
I can't picture it.
Oh, the other overriding memory was Friday Night Film Sock. So I don't know if that still goes, but it used to be.
Yeah, we still have a film sock.
Oh, yeah. That's good to know. So it was an LTB 6 and 7, which used to be able to join together. And I think the film started at something like 11. It was like a very late night show on a Friday night. And they used to show an awful, like 1940s something or other, Batman or something, 15-minute ahead of the main film. And it became a thing to interrupt it with clever comments. And there was one film, it was something to do with kind of like American preachers going around in the 30s, quoting the Bible at people. I can't even remember what the film was. And so every so often the dialogue would go, and I say unto you, brother, in Luke 14, chapter 5, the Lord doth say unto you. And the film was going on. And then at one point, someone in the film swears. I hope I can swear on the radio. Someone in the film says, oh, fuck you. And then someone in the audience shout out, John chapter 2, verse 13. And someone also made a polystyrene cutout of a bat. It was only about 6 inches long. But if you sat in front of the beam of the projector, then every time he stuck his bat up on the beam, it came out like 30 foot long across the screen. Wow. So that became a thing on a Friday night as well. Yeah, film socks were good.
Were there any other societies that you were a part of?
No, I think Film Sock and the radio station kind of were the only two. Do you know what? In my first year, I didn't do a lot of work. I just reveled in being at Essex, away from home, having friends. Second and third year, I knuckled down. No, I don't think I joined anything else that I can remember.
Were there any societies that you wished you had joined?
Not that I can think of. I mean, there were things that I wished I'd stuck with. So I don't know if the degree is still structured in the way of credits.
Yes.
But I know in my first year, I started doing Russian and gave up after about 4 weeks. And I really wished I'd stuck with that. And there was a big school of Latin American studies. And I was always very envious of all the kind of events they organized. They always seemed a lot more interesting than kind of ordinary homegrown student life.
Wow. Sounds like a really different time, actually. Speaking with the other alumni, they were saying that the essence at Essex Uni when they came down here, although obviously the campus has changed and all like there's new buildings and such, it still feels like the essence of Essex is still here. I don't know if you agree.
Yeah, I think because the structural shape of it is still there, you know, the squares, the towers, and then the squares have softened. You know, I think they've been planted up and there are a lot more flowers growing and the other buildings have fitted in rather well. It just feels like it's expanded without, exactly as they say, kind of losing its heart.
Were there any classes that you loved in particular?
You know, I'm not sure how much I enjoyed it. I'll tell you, in my third year, although I was doing my degree as economics, I think I did more politics than anything else because that's sort of it turned out where my interests were. We had some amazing teachers. We had Peter Townsend, who taught sociology, who was one of the forerunners of the kind of the academic study of poverty. He was an extraordinary man to listen to. We had Chris Bliss on economics. We had some quite big names who were already well known and became even better known. So look, you kind of maybe didn't appreciate it at the time, but over the next few years, people would pop up on the telly as an expert, and I'd think, oh wow, yeah, he was one of my lecturers at Essex.
Wow.
The other thing that really hit me coming back for the reunion weekend over the summer was the diversity on campus. That absolutely was not there when I was there. It was a very white campus. There were a lot of overseas students, but a lot were American or European. There were a few. One of my good friends was from Singapore. But the diversity on campus was brilliant to see. It really was.
Yeah, Essex has an amazing diversity to it. And I looked at a lot of universities, actually. But although I'm from Colchester and I actually still live here, I never thought to look at Essex because it was a local university. But I looked at it last minute. And the diversity here was what struck me. And I absolutely love it. I think it's brilliant. There's so much life on campus and there's always something going on, and we've got so many different societies as well. which have made this event possible, because we've had so many people come in doing different things. So yeah, the diversity is incredible here.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. And the other thing I loved the proximity to Wivenhoe. I absolutely adored Wivenhoe. I mean, at least once a week we'd go down and sit on the quay and with a few drinks. And then we did that actually this weekend over the reunion walk down there. I don't know, is there still a thing called the Wivenhoe Run?
We call it the Wivenhoe Trail.
Okay, which is where you're supposed to go into every pub on the way down and the way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to know traditions keep going.
Yeah. Did you have any like specific hangout spots on campus that you and your friends like to go to?
I remember the little coffee bar on the main square that did egg mayonnaise sandwiches. I think we spent a lot of time there. No, I think we spent a lot of time in each other's rooms and those communal kitchens, which are a great place to hang out.
Right.
And I certainly from second year and third year, I had a very tight-knit group of friends that I was sharing with. And so we spent a huge amount of time in the kitchen or in each other's rooms, just talking and hanging out.
Yeah, I was speaking to the other alumni members, and they were saying, you know, that their social part of their accommodations and their uni life was so vibrant. It was really good. And I think nowadays, because we have things like phones and internet, I think we're a lot more isolated. And I think I stayed on campus last year for my final year, and I stayed in Wolfson Court. And I don't think I spoke to hardly any of my flatmates, and that wasn't because we didn't want to. I think it's just we live in a much more isolating time. So it's really, you know, it's great that you got to have such a lovely social life while you were on campus, and that your flatmates were all very tight knit, because I don't think a lot of students really get that as much now.
Oh, that's sad. To me, that was a huge part of kind of the fabric of student life. It was learning to socialize. I mean, I went to a pretty dull girls' grammar school, where I didn't get on with a lot of people. I wasn't either liked or liked a lot of people. And Essex, for me, just opened up a whole new world. If nothing else, you could suddenly arrive and be a different person. You know, you could create a new personality for yourself. There was no one to go, oh, aren't you that person who was like this and this? You could be someone new, someone different. And I remember on Sunday night, I'd go down. My mother would insist on ringing me on a Sunday night, and you'd go down to the Porter's Lodge, to where the pigeonholes were and one of the public telephones. That was a sort of Sunday night ritual. Obviously, all of that's gone. I mean, well, my son was at university, and now, I mean, we pretty well message, WhatsApp, phone, whatever, constantly. And you didn't have that when I was there. So actually, you were forced to make the best of Essex. It was a crucible. You stuck within it. We'd go to Colchester. I think maybe once in a blue moon, we'd go to the cinema. One of my friends had a car, and maybe every couple of weeks we'd go and do a supermarket shop. But life really, really revolved around the campus.
Would you do university all over again if you could?
No, not in a million years.
Oh, really? Even though you had a great experience?
Yeah, thank you. Been there, done that. No, look, I mean, I'm probably about to retire fairly soon. I've been 50 years in broadcasting. And one of the things I'm just so relieved about is that I don't have to go through all of that. You know, am I going to get a job? What's my next job going to be? Am I doing okay in this job? Am I ever going to be able to afford a flat? Can I get a mortgage? You know, I don't envy you starting out. I'm very glad I've survived it and done it, but I wouldn't want to do it again.
Yeah, I guess that leads on to, in my opinion, my most important question. Whenever I thought about doing an interview with alumni, I always wanted to ask this question, and I thought other students would appreciate it. And that is, obviously, we have students graduating this year, and you can understand what it's like to leave the university life and go out into the world and not really know what you're going to do, whether or not you're going to get a job in what you love or not. So if you had any advice for students graduating this year, what would it be?
Oh, just have confidence. I was determined, well, pretty much from when I arrived at university, that I wanted to go into journalism. And in my third year, I quite literally papered the walls of my room with rejection letters, because I got one or two, and just out of, I thought, oh, to hell with it. And I stuck them up on the wall. And then the more that came in, I thought, I'm not going to back down from this. I'll carry on sticking them up on the wall. And I literally plastered my room with rejection letters. I applied to all the ITV stations. I applied to the BBC trainee scheme. I got to the last 50 of 1,000 and didn't get it. And then I got a job at Radio City. And from there, I applied again to the BBC. And second year running, I got the scheme. So I became a BBC graduate trainee. I worked at the Beeb, I worked at ITV, at Channel 4, now at Al Jazeera. I've had the most amazing career. But it's slow burn. And if you go into broadcasting, it's not like becoming a doctor or a lawyer. There is no career structure whatsoever. The fact that you've got one job is no guarantee that you're going to move up or move on or get another one. So the uncertainty that you have at the beginning of your career doesn't entirely go away. But have faith in yourself and just don't give up. Keep going. Plaster your walls if you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I graduate my master's at the end of this year. So I think I'm getting to that point where I might just have to do it, have to just persist and just do what I can, really.
Yeah, look, I mean, my son went down a similar route. He did his degree in international relations, and he sort of wanted to work in politics in some shape or form. He did the classic thing where he was an unpaid intern to a political party, then an unpaid intern to an MP. I must have financed him for 8-9 months, literally giving him lunch money, travel money, until he finally got a job as an MP researcher. And now he's, very senior policy wonk. I think your options for employment are more diverse, but more uncertain than they were in our day. I mean, we kind of took it for granted we were going to get a job. It was just a question of what and where and when. And there weren't that many options. Whereas now the world is so diverse, particularly in any form of broadcasting. I mean, there are so many more options now, so many more platforms with digital, with social media. But I think, the skills that you've got, if you've been involved in Rebel, will stand you very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was talking to the team. It's been amazing to talk with alumni and get to know your experiences and stuff. And I'm currently sat in our editorial room, and we have an editorial team filled with journalists and people that want to go on to be journalists. And we've got a couple of people really interested in radio. And I thought it would be brilliant if we could do some sort of collaboration, whether they talk to you or they write an article about it, because I think it's really important to get in contact with students that have been through it, have gone out into the world and got jobs, because sometimes you just need that sort of support. But yeah, it'd be brilliant. So if you would be interested.
Oh, look, I'm happy for anyone to contact me. And, look, I'm obviously at the different end of career. I now work in investigative documentaries. It's not somewhere that you start out. This is a tough world to get into. A lot of people still start out as unpaid runners, interns, but networking is hugely important, especially in this business. So yeah, for sure, happy to talk to anybody if I've got any advice, whether they take it or not, whether it's of any value or not. But yeah, no problem at all.
That'd be amazing. Well, thank you for coming on, Deborah. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Welcome. Thank you for asking.
No, that's okay.
Nice memories.
I'd love to talk to you again. Love for you to meet the team. So hopefully we can do something in the future. But other than that, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you for being a part of our charity event.
Thank you. Good luck with it. Let me know how it all goes.
We will. Thank you very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.